Look, we're looking forward to hearing from the president tonight for his last State of the Union address. While we're not certainly expecting much new, there is one thing that we hope to hear from the president, and that is a comprehensive plan to defeat ISIS. Americans are so anxious right now about their security, about what's going on around the world. Just look at what happened today in Istanbul, in the tourist district where at least 10 people were killed. We've passed a law requiring the president to put forward a plan to defeat this threat, and I hope that he will deliver. The other thing I'd say to Americans who are anxious about the direction of the country is this. If people want to hear from a leader who has brought people together, if people want to hear from a leader who has gotten things done, who has set a bold agenda, then they should tune in and watch Governor Nikki Haley deliver the Republican address this evening. If they want to hear a positive vision to make America confident again, then they should watch Nikki Haley. And they should also watch Mario Diaz-Balart in the Spanish address. This is a great start to 2016. This is a year where we are going to go on offense on ideas. This is a year where we are going to give the country a bold pro-growth agenda so that they can choose the direction this country will head. That way, next year, when it's a Republican president coming to address Congress, we will have a mandate to do the big things that we need to do to get the country back on track. Thank you.
As we look forward to the State of the Union tonight, we know that the President talks about this will be a different State of the Union. I'm hopeful it's not one of those farewell tours for an entire year of just speaking of what he thinks could have been accomplished. But the one thing that the Speaker talked about, the number one issue in the country we hope this President talks about is security. From Paris to San Bernardino to Philadelphia to Istanbul this morning, we're living in an unsafe world, and it has to be addressed. Now, the House will not sit back and wait for the President to finally come up with a plan. If you watch on the floor today, before the President enters to give his State of the Union, we'll vote on new sanctions of North Korea. Tomorrow, before we depart for our retreat, we'll vote on sanctions of Iran. You'll find today's vote will be a very large bipartisan vote from Republicans and Democrats. If the House is addressing this issue, we hope the President will address the issue in the State of the Union.
As President Obama enters the House chamber tonight for his last State of the Union address, I'd like to hear him talk about national security and talk about a different strategy to defeat ISIS. I think it's clear to most people across the country that his plan is not working. Not only are you seeing ISIS continue to move through the Middle East, but they've made it clear for months now that they were going to come to Western countries, and they've done it in Paris. They've now done it in the United States with the San Bernardino attack, and they're not slowing down. So the president, if he wanted to reach across the aisle, would find a lot of strong bipartisan support to come up with a new plan to defeat ISIS and a willing partner in Congress to get that done. Unfortunately, he hasn't taken that opportunity. He hasn't done that yet. I'd like to see him do that tonight. It'd be a good opportunity for him to take a different approach to help keep America secure, something that he's failed to do so far. So we'll be looking forward to seeing, hopefully, a different approach from the president.
Good morning, everyone. As others have mentioned, tonight is the president's last State of the Union address. Some are also saying tonight is his night, but tonight is the people's night. The president's last State of the Union is anything like the rest of his presidency, we know what to expect. Status quo, ideas from on high, empty words. Because this is President Obama's legacy. It's the top-down, government knows best approach. What I wish the president would say is that he respects people through their elected representatives to make the best decisions for themselves and the future of this country. He's had his, quote, year of action. He's had his, quote, pen and phone. But we haven't seen him recognize the role of we the people. And he chooses, time and time again, to go it alone. 2016 is about a choice. It's the choice between that top-down government knows best approach versus what we are working on here in the People's House, which is an agenda for the people, produced by the people's representatives and built from the bottom up. It's an agenda that will help us reach a future where people are not bound by where they come from, but they are empowered by what they can become. This morning over at the House Republican Conference, we launched sotu.gop.gov, where we will be live streaming the GOP address tonight. It's also where you can track everything that is going on today. I encourage you to check it out. Again, sotu.gop.gov. Thank you.
Thanks. In 2016, the American people faced two contrasting visions for the future: a government that empowers folks or a government that controls folks. Since I arrived in Congress 7 years ago, I've worked for a future where folks can control their own health care, where individuals can actually do their own taxes and businesses aren't weighed down under the toll of our cumbersome tax code, and where better government means state and local control, not more federal regulations. Tonight, President Obama will again lay out his case for a more intrusive, expansive, and ever-present, we know best federal government, a government where unelected bureaucrats in Washington make decisions instead of the American people having the ability to retain their constitutional freedoms. Please listen carefully this evening, because this year the American people have a chance to choose a vision for a brighter future, one that you control, one where the government gets out of your way so you can create a better tomorrow for a more confident America.
I'm hoping that today we will hear a plan to confront terrorism and tyranny. You know, we are blessed in the United States of America to live in this land of freedom and opportunity, but even in our hemisphere, there are places where the governments don't represent the people. So I'm hoping that the President will talk about how he will support our allies and how he will confront terrorism with a real plan, which we have not gotten to this day. And also, what is he going to do to help those who are now, for example, just got elected in Venezuela? There's a new parliament elected, a new Congress elected in Venezuela that's struggling to just be able to take control of that parliament. What is the President going to do to help them? What is the President going to do to help the people in Iran who are struggling for freedom and who are giving their lives? What is the President going to do to confront the Castro regime that has now rearrested some of those 53 that the President claimed was one of his big victories, and now even we've learned has a high technology missile of the United States, refuses to give it back, and the President again continues to give concessions. So I'm hoping that we will hear a President who understands that you have to support our allies, confront terrorism and tyranny to make sure that the American people continue to be safe.
Well said. Questions? Say it again. I don't think those executive actions complicate anything we do around here. I think this is working its through the process. I would talk to Upton and Murphy, the leaders on this project, but this is something we want to see move forward. Jake. Yes.
The President undoubtedly tonight is going to try to paint a much rosier picture than the economy that you all are painting right now, including 14 million jobs created over the last 5 years, the unemployment rate increasing. Do you think the President deserves any credit at all for positive economic news?
I think the Federal Reserve has done more. And by the way, I think the Federal Reserve has given us, in combination with Obama policies, more regulations, higher taxes, more uncertainty, has given us trickle-down economics. This is liberal style. So what's happening is people at the high end are doing pretty darn well because of loose money from the Fed, and all these regulations, all this uncertainty, all these taxes is giving us weak economic growth. Wages are stagnant. Middle-income wages are flat. 46 million people are still living in poverty today, among the highest poverty rates in a generation. This is not the signs of a recovery. This is not the signs of a healthy economy. These are the signs of a weak economy. You combine that with the fact that the world is on fire, that foreign policy is getting away from us, that we are less safe, and that is why the anxiety in America is so palpable.
You used the budget process to take on Obamacare and Planned Parenthood. You just told Jake you're going to pass the budget. Are you going
Well, look at the success we've had. Where on discretionary spending, we have lowered discretionary spending because since we've taken the majority. No, Andy, I'm just saying, you know this stuff. Look over the course of time. We have been successful in actually putting caps on discretionary spending and lowering discretionary spending from where it was meant to go. With respect to entitlements, we all know that this president will not take on the debt crisis. We all know that this president has chosen to ignore our fiscal problems in America and the pending debt crisis that's coming with our entitlements. So we know we need to have a new president to work with to get our fiscal house in order. This president is not going to fix our fiscal policy. He's abdicated that responsibility. So reconciliation, he just vetoed it. So the point I would mention to you, Andy, is we're going to lay out a case to the public on what it's going to take to get this country's fiscal house in order, and clearly that's going to take a Republican president because this president has continued to kick the can down the road, and I see no change in his behavior.
Last question.
Our goals at the retreat are to have a good conversation among our members so that we have the organic process launched that we want to have, which is where we come together to build our agenda. Look, I've said to you all along, leadership's not going to predetermine the outcome of everything around here. That's different. So we're going to have an organic participatory process where all of our members have a say-so in helping determine the direction of our conference going forward. That's the kind of process I want to encourage. And what I want to accomplish at our retreat is the beginnings of the conversation of assembling an agenda to take to the country and the launching of a process under which we put that agenda together. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.